We're going to take up another angle of this story now with Jeet Heer. He's National Affairs Correspondent with The Nation. Hello, thanks for joining us.
Good to be here.
So, Jeet, last hour we spoke with Rick Wilson from the Lincoln Project about House Republicans. I want to now focus on the Democrats. For 11 straight votes now, they have fully backed their House leader, Hakeem Jeffries. Now some political commentators are urging Democrats to help Kevin McCarthy become Speaker because, let's face it, the business of the nation is not getting done while all this plays out. What is your response to that idea?
Well, I think if you just do the math, it looks like the McCarthy doesn't have the votes by himself, and that he or some other Republican, perhaps someone who's not even in the House right now, could come to power with a mix of support from Democrats and Republicans. But I mean, the political calculus is very odd to me. Like, I don't think it's the job of the Democrats to save the GOP from its own folly. I think, there's just generally a rule that if your enemy is self-destructing, you get out of the way. But further, I think that these calls, and they tend to be coming from sort of centrist, moderate Republicans who are very weak in their own party and who now need Democratic help. I don't think they make sense in terms of how the Republican Party now is. That is to say, it's premised on the idea that there's a significant number of Republicans who could also join the Democrats to support a more moderate candidate. And I think that, just from everything we've seen in the last 6 years, the Republican Party is such that any Republican that joins with the Democrats will face a primary threat and will lose their future in their party, as people like Liz Cheney have lost their future. So I just don't think it makes sense.
We certainly know that many Democrats are having some fun with this. You look at all the memes of them, carrying a bucket of popcorn into the next round of voting, and now we've got 11 underway. This does appear, though, doesn't it, to be a moment of great political leverage for House Democrats, rather than doing as you suggest and just sitting back. Could they not pry some nice concessions out of Republicans?
I think that it's a good strategy to try to make a deal and put something on offer. And I think it's very interesting that one has seen these amazing scenes of very right-wing Republicans on the floor talking with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, trying to see if she can work as a go-between between them and the Democrats. One could, in theory, offer a kind of deal where they say, if we support you, you're not going to touch the debt ceiling, so that the finances of America are secure for the next 2 years. You're not going to go on a wild goose hunt to impeach Joe Biden. You're going to focus on real issues. I think that's well worth saying and worth doing. My skepticism here is, will the Republicans take such a deal? And I just don't see it. I think the most likely outcome is what we're seeing, which is that McCarthy caves in more and more to the very hard right holdouts, and they gain increasing leverage, and that he ekes out, finally, after this Groundhog Day continues time and again, Groundhog Day comes to an end, and he ekes out a bare majority, but with a party that is firmly committed to the most hard right faction. And if that's the case, then you're going to see real chaos in the next 2 years. You're going to see a debt ceiling crisis, and you're going to see, I think, the impeachment of Joe Biden.
The impeachment of Joe Biden, really?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you're going to look at what can McCarthy offer these people that are so fanatically holding out, and they're gonna be in charge. And these are people, who are already kind of on record as saying they think the stuff in the Hunter Biden emails or whatever, anything they come up with is impeachable. So I think that you will see either McCarthy or someone like him become the speaker, beholden to the most fanatical, not just the fanatical faction, but their majority is so slim that the most right-wing member of the Republican caucus will now hold the keys. And if you don't think that means the impeachment of Joe Biden or a debt crisis or many other, a real roller coaster ride for the next 2 years, I think we're in for a period of unstable government.
Indeed, some are referring it to almost like a hostage taking, where a small group of the most right-wing Republicans are holding all of this hostage. I wonder, back to the Democrats for a moment, as Americans become increasingly frustrated, because as mentioned, I mean, the representatives haven't even been sworn in yet because of the delay in this election of the Speaker of the House. As Americans watch this, and frankly the rest of the world, and the reputation of the U.S. might even be at stake here when it comes to its government, is there a political risk if Democrats don't step forward to try to be the grown-ups in the room and help broker a deal?
Well, I think that they can try. They should offer a deal, and I think that the deal that they can offer is very reasonable. Of like taking the most extreme demands of the Republicans off the table and working with them. I just don't think that it's going to work. I just don't think that the dynamics are such, the polarization between the two parties is such that the kind of centrist compromise that people are calling for is not going to work. I mean, I think there's a lot of nostalgia in Washington for the old days of like Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill working together, and I just don't think that the nature of the two parties is at this moment is such that such a compromise is possible. So my skepticism is on the level of possibility. Can this work? Should they make the offer? Yes, I think they should make the offer, and I think they should make the offer with the intent of bringing this to an end, not now, but 2 years from now, saying that we offered a deal for secure governance. The Republicans have proven that they cannot govern, and then take the issue to the electorate in 2024.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned 2020.
And I add that there are 18 House Republicans that are in seats that Joe Biden won the majority. And I think that those are the pressure points where Democrats could really force Republicans to compromise, or eventually lose.
You mentioned 2024, and many observers are saying that what we're seeing play out now is a glimpse of what 2024, what that race is going to look like. Today is the 2-year, as you know well, the 2-year anniversary is January 6th of that insurrection on Capitol Hill. As you look at what's playing out now and some of the dire predictions you've just been making, how do you feel about the state of your nation right now?
Well, I'm actually a Canadian citizen.
I just remember that as I asked. Yes, okay. The state of the nation, though, as you observe it.
I do write about American politics for an American magazine, The Nation. And I will say, no, I mean, it's a very dire situation. And I think the root is sort of polarization, but asymmetrical, with the Republicans really being the party of the radical right. And I think this January 6th is just a continuation of the previous January 6th. That what you're seeing is that the revolution is eating its own, that the same impulses that have led to the January 6th insurrection are now eating into the Republican Party. And I would add that I think it's important to keep in mind, people talk about moderates versus hardline. It's actually, this is a battle between two hardline factions. McCarthy himself refused to sanction Trump for the January 6th, and refused to accept Joe Biden's presidency. And so what you're seeing is two very hardline factions fighting itself out because the holdouts are using the same logic of January 6th against their own party. And I think, it does speak to, I think, an increasing period of chaos and unstable government for the United States. I think the more hopeful sign is, just coming out of the midterms, I do think that the Republicans are paying a political penalty for this. The reason their majority is so slim is that a lot of voters are starting to wake up about this. And I think the best path forward is for the Democrats to run on a message that Republicans can't govern.
Jeet, this has been a fascinating discussion. I thank you so much for your time today.
It's great to be here.
National Affairs correspondent for The Nation magazine, Canadian, Jeet Heer. Thanks again.